right, hi you guys. Just wanted to put a little video out, a short one, about maybe doing an act of kindness or making something for someone that they might enjoy. So I've got a couple of ideas, and I'm gonna talk to you about them and show you, some examples, and then hopefully you'll be able to take it and run with it with however you'd like things to look or whatever you would like to make. Um, but my first idea is definitely to write somebody a letter or a postcard. And you can put it in the mail and then they'll get it and it'll make their day so much better because they have something wonderful from you. The only thing I tell my students is before you put anything in the mail, definitely like take a picture of the letter. That way, if by some odd chance it were to get lost or something like that, you'd have a picture of it and you could send it like an email to somebody if the original couldn't show up at their door. But it does make people happy to see letters in their mailbox from people they care about. So you can write a letter, or you can get, thick cardstock or watercolor paper if you've got some thick paper at home, and you can make a postcard. I have drawn this on the back of watercolor paper before or thick paper, but these happen to be printed this way. And I've got some little nieces and nephews, so I did a little shiny watercolor of some fish because one of them likes that. Did a ladybug going to a post office being run by a bird because they like that as well. And then I've also got some that I did that just looks like plain stripes. But I've got this ink that I was able to put on here with a paintbrush, and that ink happens to be glow in the dark. So this is for one of my nephews, and he loves dragons. So it's actually covered in stuff that is glow in the dark that he will think is absolutely like the most wonderful thing ever. And then another one is this one where it's kind of galaxy-ish, but what was done in the glow in the dark paint is like outer space kinds of stuff. So you can be as creative as you want, even if it's just a drawing. Maybe you don't have any paints right now, that's okay. If it's a really cool drawing, people like that quite a bit as well. Maybe writing a letter is a little bit too much, and postcard seems great, but you'd rather just like write a note for someone who's in your house. That's okay too. Find some paper and write just a short little note about how much you care about someone, or maybe how much you appreciate how hard they're working or the things that they're doing. So you can just write a little note to tell them that and leave it somewhere where they'll find it. So if it's a grown-up, maybe by where they keep their car keys or at their spot at the dinner table. But it's always nice to let people know that you're thinking of them and that you appreciate them. Another thing you can do if you've got little younger kids living, in the apartment next door, you've got little cousins or little brothers or sisters, you can make things out of, items that you can find around the house that they can use to play with and be creative. And so I'm going to show you a couple of examples. We upcycled one of those containers that you get in the little machines where you put like a quarter in and twist it and something comes out. I think this may have held like a little paper tattoo or something. But we made out of this Model Magic clay and some paints a little flying saucer. So these little characters that they like to play with have something cute to fly around in. So that was basically some clay and some recycled plastic, but we turned it into something cute that they could use. Another one that I love, this is a Q-tips box, like a travel Q-tips box. So there's a little cardboard piece that slides out of it, and we just put some clay inside it, and made a tree and a little nest and a little like leaf from a plant and these little things that they like to play with. It was like a little spot for these two to interact, and the kiddos actually loved that. They really appreciated having that made. So I ended up making a second one to keep as a sample because they liked that so much. And it was just a Q-tip box, which was really kind of cool. Another thing, this was just a box that I think a bookmark came in, and we had some leftover paper. So for these littles, they were very sweet, let me borrow this to be able to film it. But all we did was make the inside of it look like grass and water and like a fence. And the little horses that they like to play with fit inside there. And they loved that. They thought that was like the neatest thing ever. And all that was paper and color and cardboard from a bookmark. So that was pretty cool. And then another thing we've done. So if you come across any little bags, like I think these were bags that were like favors for a wedding, they're made out of a material called muslin, and we picked a couple of flowers and we laid them face up on like the sidewalk. Then we took the bag and we laid it over the flower, and then we took a piece of cardboard and laid it on top of there, and then with a hammer we just hammered away at it for about a minute, like got all our stress out, and it made an imprint and a color of that flower on the bag. And so we did it with some pansies and some primroses, those pink ones that are wildflowers that grow everywhere. This was geraniums, but like we filled these with little things for our neighbors that have two little girls, and left those as like little surprises at their door. We let the parents know that I was dropping them off, and that was really cute. And it was just kind of simple. We just happened to have those. Another thing you can do if you've got watercolor paper is you can draw and then paint something for a little brother or sister or a neighbor to play with. So this is laminated because I take this as an example. I train adults about creative things with kids. So don't worry if yours isn't going to be, covered in plastic. That's okay. This is just watercolor paper. And I drew a bakery on the outside in pencil. And then I used a fine tip permanent marker to kind of trace those details. Then on the other side, I drew what it would look like inside the bakery based on what this little girl was most excited about. And then after I did the drawings, I painted in the background and I colored some of it in marker or sparkly pen. And then, cut the door so that the door opens, and that's something that they could play with some of the little things that they have, kind of like what we've got here. And they loved that. And all that was a piece of paper that was drawn on, but it was sturdy enough to stand up. So that was good. We ended up doing a big one that was like 2 pieces of paper, and we folded them in half and taped them together to make this tall shape. And we drew one side to look like a bookstore, and then little apartments above it. And then, the back door to the cafe and the children's book section, the front of the cafe. And it looks like a side entrance with some lanterns and other things. So this one took much longer to draw and then cover in the marker and then paint. But they loved it. They loved it, and they played with it so much we ended up having to laminate it because it got used a lot. So if you don't have watercolor paper, but you've got cardboard, or you've got old cereal boxes, which are basically big, tall rectangles, you can use whatever you've got and recycle it and turn it into, something that a little brother or sister might want to play with, or a little neighbor next door, especially with people having time where they feel like they're stuck at home. Having a little surprise, pop up at your door because a bigger kid was thinking of you and made something for you is pretty neat. So hopefully you will get a couple of ideas that you can use, and you'll go do an act of kindness for someone and help their day be a little brighter. Have a good one, you guys.